was a shot we took last year when, this is the tower that big ass Mosley's on. I forget how high it goes. Ashton, what is it, 70-foot tower? What is it?
68 or something.
Something or other. Okay. But anyways, I put this little slide together for the club to just kind of get you guys thinking about, why would a guy want to do remote rig HF? Why would you want to control your rig from somewhere else? Well, if you live in Manhattan, they're not going to let you put a Mosley on top of your penthouse, more than likely, any more than they're going to let you have a big gulp soda in New York City because the mayor doesn't think these things are a good idea. So,
and in the last week, I've been in touch with a guy in New York who has a Mosley on his rooftop of his penthouse.
Send a picture.
Donald Trump.
But
he wants to put a quarter wavelength 80-meter vertical up now.
So, anyways, it does offer some advantages because, depending on where you live, they may or may not let you put up an antenna. This technology, because of the internet now, you can run a remote rig in Australia, New Zealand. It really doesn't matter where this stuff is. It just matters that you and them have an internet connection that's relatively high speed, and you can start operating equipment remotely. And as far as the sideband stuff goes in voice, we've learned through experimentation that the latency for voice is not really a consideration. It works pretty fast. We haven't really had any latency issues. Ashton's the only one that's messed with the CW, and he said that on the CW the latency isn't too bad either. But I haven't experimented with that. So, is that basically true? The CW is okay?
Oh yeah, CW is fine. And for people who may want to test that, you're welcome to drop by my place after this. And I'm looking at Stan if you want to give it a go. And
I think I have the next slide here is a picture of basically Ashton's Cadillac setup. Yeah, this is what it looks like. The left-hand side here is basically Ashton's location in Carbondale, and he goes out over the internet over a Comcast cable modem and comes back in at the cabin with a Cradle Point. Cradle Point is the manufacturer of the box, and it uses Verizon's LTE connection with a static IP address, which is this number here, and that allows all these devices here to talk to all the devices at the cabin. And as he adds more equipment and builds out the different devices, he can add in a webcam, for example, to look out the window to see if the antenna's pointed the way you think it is. And you can have remote thermometers plugged into the network. This is the Kenwood we remotely control. And this little box over here is the magic that makes all the good stuff happen, this RRC 1258. This box here at the cabin talks to its identical image box over here, and Ashton's at his office in Carbondale, and he operates this box, which operates this box that drives the Kenwood, and we'll show that to you. But these boxes are the key. And when these two boxes can see each other on essentially the same network, which is what this does, they operate really well. And if money's no object, these are the boxes you want to have, Stan. If you want to operate CW or join the party, you could have one of these boxes here, Stan, as well as one of these Cisco VPN routers in Aspen, and you could join the party. We would just simply add you into this whole thing, and you could join the party and start operating the equipment remotely.
think of the boxes as being 4 or 5 tunnels through the internet that are just tunnel to tunnel. And one of those tunnels is the radio control, and another of those tunnels is the CW connection, and another of those tunnels is the audio connection, and another tunnel that is available in those boxes is running an amp. I don't have that up and going yet, or turning an antenna rotor, and I'll have a different solution for that. But so you get packaged in 2 boxes. You get 4 or 5 tunnels right through the internet that are almost like fiber optic. You look down one side and you see out the other side. So,
anyways, so this is the Cadillac. If money's no object and you've got a lot of stuff and you want to make it all play together, this is the way you do it. You do it with a full bore LAN to LAN VPN and join the party and knock yourself out. So Ashton spent a lot of money on this box here, and he actually rolled the dice and spent a lot of money, because as most stuff with wireless goes, as you all know in the room, you don't know how this stuff is going to work at the cabin until you buy the box and you stick it in up there and turn it on and see if it works. And so Ashton rolled the dice, and we got lucky, and this box works beautifully up there. It's very, very fast. 4G LTE, and it's got a static IP address, so we always know where it is, which is to say we always know where the cabin is on the internet.
what it's made for, the main customer of these boxes is cash machines. So all the cash machines that are located out around the world are connected in through these boxes. So they're really suited to fixed IP addresses, and they have great 24/7 reliability.
So the next thing I want to show you here in the presentation, and this is, in my mind, one of the coolest things that Ashton has going at his cabin. This kind of still blows my mind in terms of how cool this is. You'll see the radio here, okay, in a couple of minutes, but what I want to show you next is this remote control antenna switch. And what I did here is I have this little computer. I connected it to the VPN, and there it is. Okay, so here is the remote control antenna switch operated from a browser. And Ashton, all he has to do is click on one of these buttons, and he can change the antenna that the remote radio is hooked to. So if he wants to work Europe off the Moseley, he goes click and chooses the Moseley at the top. If he wants an 80-meter vertical, he goes down to number 6 and goes click with his browser, and that switches the other antenna to the radio. So he's got full remote control of his entire antenna farm out there, and he can hook up any of these antennas remote to the one radio he's got out there that he's operating. So I think that's pretty amazing that you can do that. And how much was that antenna switch box?
Less than the DX Engineering normal switch box. So at this point, and it's beautifully built. At this point, I would say if you're buying a multiple antenna switch of any sort, you can run this in a home. You don't need to be remote. It does have to be run off a browser, but it's a 10-position antenna switch, stainless steel housing, takes everything to ground when they're all turned off. It's just a, and this was the easiest thing of all of the things to get going.
So, one word of caution on this, which Aston and I kind of discovered as we went along. We didn't actually make the mistake, which is good. But if you hook up a radio in a linear amplifier remotely, you better make darn sure you got one of these antennas in line when you key it up, or you could have a whole nother issue. So operationally, you have to get used to a certain procedure. So when you turn the radio on, make sure an antenna's hooked up. For God's sakes, particularly if you got a big alpha amplifier out there, you want to make sure that the pieces are right. One of the other issues we're working through with Phil, talking about too, was at the end of the day, what is the best way to disconnect the antennas because of lightning? How can you best do that remotely? And it's still being discussed, I think, in terms of what the best way is.
Well, can you protect from keying? When you key, can it do it check first to see that there's an antenna connected?
Yeah, all the modern radios do. It's not the best thing to do to your radio to work for. First off, when you connect into the radio, you can hear whether you're attached to an antenna, by and large, and it's a pretty easy. Most of us disconnect our antennas from our radios when we're not using them anyway, I think, so it's a pretty easy discipline to translate into this.
So, anyways. Okay. So
But there are ways to control rotors on this system, and there's ways to switch antennas. And so far what I'm set up with is I've just left an antenna on Asia, an antenna in Europe, and an antenna in South America, and I just switch. That's the contest setup anyway.
So, yeah, but being able to switch between those antennas is huge. I mean, if you're, 40 meters is going good, you want to switch over to 80 or whatever, you just go click with your browser, switch the antenna, and you keep going. And it's pretty amazing when you get all that stuff set up. But the Cadillac setup that Ashton has here is definitely what you want. If you want to operate a lot of different devices, remote control, you've got to go with the full LAN-to-LAN VPN. Okay, this is a good picture of what this magic box is. This little box here does all the work and all the magic. In Ashton's case, he has two of these boxes. They're identical. One lives in Carbondale at his home office, and the other one lives out in the cabin. And you can see from the picture here, this little box will control a selection of different type of rig radios. Okay, it's made to work with different radios that have serial interfaces and that sort of thing. And Stan, you can see the paddles here. This is something that you could invest in if you wanted to from Aspen. You'd have a little rig like this. This is probably the best way to do it, and then VPN into the cabin, and then you could operate that way. But this gives you, you can see the microphone's plugged into this box here too. Would be basically what the setup would look like basically at the cabin. Because the radio has to be hooked to this device at the cabin, and then you control this device from the other device back in Carbondale. Okay, but this is the key box for operating the radio, and it is generic. It will work with different model radios besides just the Kenwoods that we
Well,
have
this is a
today.
picture of the control end. The control end, which is at your home, has the key and the microphone. In this case, rather than use a computer to steer the remote radio, this is the Elecraft solution where you have that dummy radio.
So
In my setup, I have a computer instead of the radio.
yeah, there's more than one way to skin a cat, but these are the kinds of pieces you would buy and invest in and put together to do different things. Okay?
What's up in the upper left-hand corner?
Just a speaker, just a
Oh,
speaker, you know, PC speaker, something like that. Okay, and we're going, okay. Here is Pete's setup. This is the Chevrolet version of remote rig control. Okay, and everybody has a laptop and a headset, that's no big deal, so you probably already got that. Thanks to Frank, who brought along his little Verizon box we have in the bank today. Frank is providing the internet connection that goes up to here, and then this goes to my router back in Avon, and this talks to a computer in Avon that has 3 connections to my Kenwood TS590. There's a serial cable connection, there is a USB cable connection, and thanks to Frank, the ACC2 audio cable that brings the audio back from the radio. Okay? I chose to do 3 different connections here because I was afraid Phil would beat me up, so I wanted to show him that I could actually do this. When you use all 3 cable connections, you get full control of the rig, and you get control of the computer that's running N1MM. So not only can you operate the radio right, I could just hear Phil going, yeah, but how do you do your logging with N1MM? Well, the answer is you run N1MM here on this computer that's hooked to the radio, and you can do all your logging that way. Now there is one glitch to that I later learned earlier this week. N1MM is an audio hog, and when you invoke N1MM, it screws up the normal radio audio, and I later found out N1MM, I guess, lets you use CW audio with it. I think there's some kind of interface, and so far I haven't figured out how to turn off the N1MM audio so that the program just runs and talks to the radio and does all the logging remotely. Okay, so this is I have most of the pieces in an internet connection. The other thing, and I got a handout here, and I'll put this up on the blog site too. Kenwood does an excellent job of providing free software, and it's all listed out on their Kenwood site. You just go click and download the software. That's good. Now here's what Kenwood doesn't tell you. There's all these different pieces of software you can download, but the son of a guns don't tell you what software runs where. Okay, there's certain pieces of software that have to run on your little laptop at the remote site here, and then there's hosting software listed here that has to run on your computer back in Avon. So this little slide here will save you a lot of headaches when you download all this stuff from Kenwood. You're like, oh, I got 6 pieces of software, but what do I load where? So this slide solves that problem. This stuff goes here, these pieces of software go there. Okay? And I've got a handout for that, so. Okay, so.
And we're gonna put all of this on the blog site.
Yeah.
So
We'll do a little.
you don't have to memorize it.
Right, okay. So, let's see if it's still working. Okay, this obviously is the Kenwood software that's free, that's designed for the TS590, and this is basically what the front panel of the computer looks like, or the radio looks like back at my shop in Avon. This little other piece of software here handles the audio. Ah, it's working. That's good. And this Connect will hopefully. It's the VPN. Hang on. Yay! Okay, so there we have it. So now my little laptop is controlling the radio that's in Avon. Okay? And this little program in the back deals with the audio back and forth, and this is the control program here. And when you want to transmit or say something, you just hit the send button. There's somebody there. I probably should be polite and not mess with them. Let's see if we can. Let's see, there's always somebody around 300, right?
Yeah, no, that's 313. No young children in the room, are there?
Close your ears, not for the faint of heart.
So we can
Yeah,
have a
maritime
speaker,
nettle.
and that's just.
Isn't the maritime net at 300?
Yeah, they're still away from us.
It's not, it's in packets, but it's not buffered.
Anyways, so
It's probably not for a long time. Yeah. I don't know if you done that.
let's back off a little bit. Just go down to, I don't know.
You got a tune out there, it's very natural.
Yeah, you can move that back and forth. It's kind of depends what you like to use.
The easiest is, do you have a mouse?
No. But anyways, okay, so when you want to transmit or call CQ, you just come over here to the send button. Heat up CQ, 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 and 0 ECT. CQ. And it's just that simple. My little laptop here has a microphone that's built into the laptop cover, so you don't have to use one of these little headsets, but if you have a laptop with the speaker and mic and stuff, you can put that on and plug in the side. That's what Ashton's got going on his. And you can go ahead and operate with the little headset on.
Pete, go down here.
Okay, well, actually, come on over and drive it.
No,
Come on, come on.
Well, I'm gonna bring a mouse.
I'm just the plumber. I just make water go through the pipe. He's the operator.
How's the quality of a headset like that as opposed to Ohio?
I don't have a Heil, so I can't honestly answer that question.
Probably pretty poor.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, that's,
No.
you know,
You
10
know, it's
bucks
a
or whatever
$12.
at Office Depot, you know.
Yeah, this is probably way too broad.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've used them on Skype and they aren't too bad for that, but.
The Ohio
yeah.
probably has the proper plug to plug.
It's just.
well, if you wanted,
You'd have to make
you
them,
could
yeah.
shape the audio in a DSP
Okay.
before you send it out. So,
I ain't getting fancy.
here's how you do CW on this setup. You establish memories, and you can put in, this. And then, we could do things like, we could go down and,
My noise floor in Avon on any given day is about S7, so.
let's see.
Now you're in USB mode. Do you wanna be in CW mode? Or?
Yeah. Anyway, on my setup at home, when I'm doing the remote, that would send the CW without a key. The way that Pete's setup works, you don't have a key in it. But there is a CW solution to this. There is easy tuning.
I'll wake Debbie up.
Yeah.
Yeah, this little switch down here turns the volume up at the remote rig radio, so my wife's working in her office and we just jack it up. She's, well, they must be doing their demo now. So, but anyway, so the good news is, in this low-cost solution, is all this software from Kenwood is free. And I just happen to have a TS590. I just got lucky, found out they had this free software, and then it was just a matter of putting the pieces together and making it work. So it's not that difficult. How many guys have Kenwoods here, or TS590s? Okay, a couple guys. So you could do all this if you wanted to. You could operate from your location and drive my rig in Avon and S4 noise floor, S7 noise floor. So, you know,
That'd be better than my S9 noise floor.
everything in the cabin, your power switches on and off, your antenna switches, your linear amplifiers, choice of radios. I mean, you know, you're only limited by your budget at that point because most of this stuff is available now commercially, and you just have to decide what kind of radio do you want to control remotely. And if you just want to do one radio like what I have, it's really inexpensive. If you want to do everything, the Cadillac solution like Ashton has, that's available too. So,
One thing I might add from my experience, I have for years had a remote in Vail, and it's quite different. It uses the old serial interfaces that was available on a lot of old radios, and we controlled it through a 220 repeater link, and tuning. It has high latency, because Phil and I were always banging our heads trying to figure out how to do CW with it, and we never could. But one of the big issues was how do you protect the radio if somebody gets on there and changes frequency and the match isn't good for the radio? And the solution there was I just used an SGC antenna tuner on a random length of wire, and that's perfect. Between that and the solid state circuits in the radio, that if it sees a high SWR, it backs off the power. But an SGC antenna tuner on just a variety of different antenna options that are open to you. Initially, what we did was just a random length of wire hooked to this box, and the radio's never complained at all. But this is like a whole new level, because the latency is far less. The equipment cost is also far less, because when you consider what we had to have a dedicated HF radio at the repeater site, then we had to have a interface that they call a Doug Hall interface, and it cost easily what Ashton's remote control box was. We had this was put up before the days, we didn't even have phone line up there. So there was no communication to the site other than, and our communication wound up being a 220 full duplex repeater. And the way this worked is that you had to have the repeater, because the audio was coming down on the repeater side, and you controlled the radio on the transmit side. So the radio had to receive and transmit at the same time, and you needed duplexers so that they weren't desensing each other and stuff like that. So this is a whole new world compared to that archaic system, and really lowers the bar in terms of cost, and opens up a whole new world.
so